Well, thanks for joining me this evening, and I'm so excited to discuss this book because I just I'm in awe of this book, um, and I feel like it's so timely and it's so full of topics for discussion. Um, so I thought maybe we could just start by sharing our overall impression of the book. Um, I just I just felt like it was almost like a life changing experience to read this book. Like it was about things that I know and see every day, but it just changed the way I look at trees and um, my relationship to them and my relationship to nature and the ecosystem. Um, and I thought the author just did a great job of weaving together these different stories of the characters that I really grew to care about, to make the whole experience even more um, resonant for me. So anyway, it's a book that I've now read twice, and I could sort of see myself rereading it every couple of years because it just had that sort of like deep impact on me, and there's so much richness in it.
It was definitely a unique book, and I don't know that I've read a book uh, where, I mean, I guess you could almost say the trees were the protagonists. You know, even though the people kept the story moving through the book, but the trees were key characters in each of the storylines. And I wasn't I when you recommended this book, I had no clue what it was about. I knew it was supposed to be, eco oriented, but it was definitely not the type of story I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I
Did
didn't
it
read it twice. I only read it once. So, but
right? I mean, it is a long thick book, and it took me a little while to understand what was going on with the different stories, the different characters he's introducing. And of course, it takes quite a while for them to, for him to weave them together so you know how they meet each other and how, it all makes sense in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I liked how the whole storyline was set up and all the different characters were introduced. It almost kind of seemed like they were like in the beginning they were just individuals that were thrown into this story, but then they kind of like connected. And it was almost like the whole idea of the book was we are all connected, and you don't see it at first, but once you delve like underground, like you see like how everything, like the trees talk to each other. And it was interesting how he set it up that these like completely disparate characters, like that would have nothing in common, like were thrown together in the end, and like how their stories like intertwine. I thought it was a really neat structure. I really
Right.
enjoyed it.
And
And
he even made them sort of different ethnicities to make them even that much more different.
yeah, yeah,
the great American story with the melting pot or the stew pot, whatever, and
Mhm.
people from different places coming together. So yeah.
So of the nine characters, which did you find most interesting or engaging? I kind of have to say I just like the first one. I think most the story of Nick and the whole family and the chestnut tree in Iowa. Um, and he's describing, the spread of the chestnut blade. It just gave me like shivers, just imagining this happening and this one tree in Iowa being spared. Um, I just love to think about that, the tree in the Iowa farmland. Just spectacular.
And the generational connection, like his like father to son to grandson, like taking photographs of this tree, like from the sapling to like the mature thing that it became. It was pretty neat to see that. I read this last year when the pandemic hit. That's when I started reading it, and it actually inspired me to the entire summer last year. I would go out every morning and I would take pictures of different plants in my yard, and I have like a series of like my plants like budding and blossoming and dying, and it's kind of a neat progression because you don't really think of that like you think of a flower like if you take a picture of something, it's like stuck in time, but you don't see like how it grows.
Yeah.
I think it helped me with that kind of perspective, and I think that helped me through last summer.
Yeah, definitely the tree blight was the chestnut tree blight was a powerful story, and the woman who the scientist who had the theories about the trees communicating, maybe, and I think maybe because I have a history in the mushroom business, and supposedly the biggest living being on the planet was supposed to be this mushroom growing out in, I think, Washington or Oregon, that covers miles underground. I don't know where that would fit in terms of the trees being one entity or communicating. I guess it's different if they're communicating versus one entity, but kind of reminded me of that, and to see her excitement at this discovery, and then the way she's treated by her peers, and she didn't really get the recognition until the recognition didn't matter to her by the time they gave her the recognition that she deserved years prior.
Right. Yeah, I really like that character too, because like she was an outsider from childhood, you know, with her hearing problem and speech impediment, and like just being so different in her interests from other kids. Yeah, I like that character a lot too.
Well, it kind of goes to show, you know, if someone doesn't, if you're just like everyone else, no one wants to read the story. It's these people who are unique in one way or another that you want to read about and try to understand their perspective or how they got to where they are. But in this book, it's you know, you kind of have a sense that the people are secondary in some fashion. And that's surprising.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
What did you make of the character Olivia? You know, who has this sort of near-death experience and then starts, you know, hearing voices. I just found that she was more like an insider who became an outsider. You know, she was like party girl in college, and then she has this just total transformation.
Trying to get to a better lighting area because my background lighting is not good.
I didn't know what to make of her. I was kind of on the fence. I didn't like the voices that she was hearing in her head. Like I didn't know if it was external or internal. Like were the trees talking to her? Was she just like, was it some kind of stroke or something?
Right.
Like it was just like it was odd.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have a better perspective on that.
No, she was definitely odd.
But she was so charismatic that she, you know, she sort of became the leader, you know.
Yeah.
Was very convincing.
Well, I guess when you go through a near-death experience, you maybe release some of your preconceived notions and want to become your own person, maybe.
Right. Right. Was there any particular facts about trees that you encountered in the story that like surprised you or impressed you? I mean, obviously, like I knew nothing about this whole, underground network of the trees communicating, and the fact that they have immune systems and can send signals when they're under attack to other trees, and the other trees can prime their immune systems to prepare for attacks, and that they might actually release chemicals that affect us, that change the way we feel about them. Like there still seems to be a lot of like mysteries associated with trees that we haven't figured out yet. And they, in a sense, like maybe they are talking to us through the things that the chemicals they release. Like, because they say a walk in the woods like makes you feel better. And does it make you feel better because it just clears your head, or does it like physically make you feel better?
Yeah, like some kind of chemical like reaction that they're causing.
It's like we're being drugged by the trees.
Right, exactly.
Well, it's nice to think that there's creatures out there. I don't know, creatures is the right word, but creatures out there who can think longer term than people can.
Right.
We don't seem to think long term too often, so.
Yeah, I think that was like something that really, really struck me, was when they were talking about the redwoods, and like some of the redwoods there like existed before Christianity.
Yeah.
Like that's just like a crazy, crazy time frame that.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think in those terms.
Well, and to imagine and I think they talk about this in different ways during the book, but the process of getting the nutrients from the ground through the trees to the whole canopy. I mean, you're not talking about, a human being who might be 6 foot tall. You're talking about a tree which might be 200 feet tall, and doing it through a simple biological process to sustain itself is pretty amazing. So the wonder of life, the wonder of how things have evolved, and creatures or beings or entities, whatever, are able to sustain themselves. I guess if they didn't sustain themselves, they'd go extinct. So, and I've seen the redwoods. Been out in California many times, and it's awe-inspiring and breathtaking. Worth the trip.
I enjoyed the description of Olivia. Well, I guess their name was Maidenhair and Watchman, when they were up in Mimas, I guess the
tree.
Tree, and then just watching all the other life in the canopy. That things were living like in the pools of water that collected, and that it was like an entire ecosystem just up in the canopy of this one tree. That was fascinating to read.
Yeah, and they were up there for how long?
A year.
A year. Yeah. I think that they went down. They go down just the one time. They go down one time.
I don't remember them.
And didn't they go down one time and the replacement didn't show up, so they went back up?
Right. That is right. Yep. Yeah.
It was a complex story, so the details. I understand why you would read it twice.
Yeah.
And I think I probably will want to do that at some point. Although I got it out of the library, so I have to get it out again. Either that or get it some other way.
It also occurred to me that he mentions a lot of episodes in American history, kind of traumatic episodes in American history. He mentions like Vietnam. Douglas goes to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And he mentions 9/11, and what are the other ones?
Well, the guy who came, the immigrant from China, who was part of the immigration.
Oh, right.
And the with the chestnut tree, about taking the chestnut and planting it out in the middle, in their backyard, I guess. But that was that from Pennsylvania, or I forget where the.
It was in like Brooklyn.
Brooklyn,
like
okay, yeah, I think you're right, Brooklyn.
He also talks a little bit, like as he's describing the whole family, about how they basically lose their small family farm, sort of the takeover of small farms by, huge corporate farms, which is another depressing episode in America. And then he mentions the Stanford prison experiment, which I didn't realize until kind of the end of the book on my first reading. Like, oh, wait a minute, that's what that was. When Douglas gets, he decides to join that, psychology experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was that just kind of something to contrast between like just the, I don't know, like the short, like brutish, just awful experiences that humanity causes on other people. And then there's the trees that talk to each other and like live in like perfect like symbiotic relationships with the fungus in the ground and the birds, and it just seemed like there was such a contrast between like the horrors of humanity versus like nature. I don't know if I'm taking that too far or anything.
No, I think so too. It also occurred to me that like a bunch of the deaths that occur in the story have to do with fossil fuels. Like Patricia's father dies in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nick's family gets poisoned by the propane heater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awful.
And then
that was pretty disturbing.
Yes, that was very disturbing.
Yeah. And then Doug like gets shot down in Vietnam.
Right.
But he's
and then of course the sort of like the explosive device that kills Olivia.
Yeah.
And then
we tend to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
We tend to go out with a bang. What can I say?
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's instances of the trees saving people's lives.
When
the Douglas's parachute,
and
that mud.
That's, I guess, when he felt the connection with trees because it saved him.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if the end result of reading this book is supposed to be optimistic or pessimistic, hopeful or disturbing. I mean, I think you can take it either way. The final pages where I guess he leaves they're putting a message out there with the in the end that can be read from space. But
it's really pessimistic when you think of how human psychology is so poorly equipped to deal with the environmental challenges that we have, climate change. We have this short-term orientation, and you know, we're very focused on the here and now, and I think maybe that's why he also threw in the Stanford Prism experiment, was like, we're so easily reduced to our sort of base instincts, you know, for our sort of selfish base instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like making any changes. And also, you know, like the whole bystander effect, where we're so affected by the people around us and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge one. Just how
Yeah.
our lifestyles and what we choose to do with our time, and you know, our use of resources, and our, you know, driving cars everywhere. Like that's what we see around us, and that's normal to us, and that's what we're going to do. And it's hard to imagine like getting out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the next generation, it'll improve a bit. Like maybe they can see a different way.
That was supposed to be the result from my generation of the 60s and 70s.
Right.
We were gonna, the times they are changing.
Right.
Not sure that they changed all that much, but maybe it got worse.
Right. They started Earth Day.
Yeah.
But then again, you know, then our whole economic system is also designed, you know, for consumption and growth, and that, like, how do we get out of that? It's,
I don't. Part of our gross national product, when they talk about GNP, part of our gross national product is all the instruments of war that we produce, because that's a product. So,
right.
you know, it's a sad state of affairs when the productivity of a country can be measured by how many fighter jets and aircraft carriers and submarines and destructive forces we can manufacture.
Well, I was inspired by Ray and Dorothy, and you know, the story of them letting their yard go wild.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that like Ray had to be still because, you know, he had a stroke, so he had to just sit and observe, and it was exciting just to observe his own backyard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that did warm my heart. I really liked that. And that he was sort of also making a transformation from this, I guess he was an intellectual property lawyer, something like that. And then starting to really think about the legal status of trees and you know, the legal system, and how you know, how it could be changed to give value to, you know, other creatures.
Yeah, that's been a common is maybe the wrong expression, but that's been a theme in a number of fictional stories, maybe actual stories. I don't know, but they talk about, you know, do other intelligent creatures have rights? You know, chimpanzees, gorillas, and what are those rights, and how do they relate to human rights? I mean, we have enough trouble with human rights, much less animal rights and tree rights.
Yeah, right.
So what did you think about the whole eco warrior, you know, demonstrations and in the novel? And do you think that kind of activism is worthwhile?
I'd say based on the results, you know, they ended up killing one of their own people, and I think that's not surprising. You know, when you are playing with explosives or playing with things that are dangerous, that something might go wrong. Mm-hmm. So the Gandhian MLK notion of nonviolent resistance. Although in this country, nonviolent resistance is frequently met with violence. So, you know, it's a little tough to try to persuade someone to stand in front of a tank when you don't know if the tank's going to run over you. I mean, when they were hiding in their living in the tree, they were forced out of the tree and the tree came down. There was, you know, there was no end of the destruction that the humans would do towards the tree world.
Right.
So is that battle supposed to be fought in a courtroom? Like, is that what he's saying? That, like, if we could legally give them rights as a tree, then that's how we're going to combat this? Like, not with activism, violent or non-violent, but with laws?
Mm-hmm.
Because that doesn't seem like, I don't think we have time for that. I don't know.
I think that the way that it can be looked at and the way that humans typically look at it is enlightened self-interest. We have an interest in the survival of the trees because we need the trees.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need us.
Yes.
You know, if we weren't here, the trees would be fine. But if we're here and we destroy, I guess I shouldn't move my hand like that in front of that. If we destroy all the trees, if we destroy the birds and the bees and other living things, you know, we suffer. We will suffer.
Right.
We'll suffer for what we're doing with global climate issues, with burning all the fossil fuels and making all the instruments of war and all these other things we do. But in terms of protecting trees, I think the only thing that will get us to do it is our own interests. But even there, when they're talking about, you know, they want to plant 1 billion trees, but planting 1 billion trees isn't the solution. They, you know, especially if all they're going to do is plant the same tree everywhere and not give any thought to how it fits into an ecosystem,
Right.
Which I guess that's when he was planting trees, he was just planting the same tree everywhere, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, that part broke my heart too. When he finally realizes that all his work was for naught.
They were actually using it to justify taking down other trees. Well, we put other trees in the ground, so it's okay if we knock a few down.
Right. And I did appreciate the explanation that just planting a monoculture of trees does not make a forest. A forest is a completely different thing than a bunch of trees. And that's something I'll definitely like keep with me. That I really appreciated that this book gave to me, this like a knowledge that a forest is an organism itself, you know.
My father always said to me that it would be a very boring world if all the people were the same. You know, if all the people were like me, oh, they'd be so civilized and all that. But it would be a really boring world if it was all the same. And the same with trees. You know, if all the trees are monolithic, then you lose that variety, the different colors against other backgrounds and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was growing up, my parents never identified trees or plants to me, so I never learned their names, you know. And it's only in adulthood that I feel like I'm starting to gather some knowledge about, you know, the world and like individual species and how it differs from another. And it's pretty exciting, really. Like, and I want to, after this, reading this book, maybe go on to read books about, apparently there's some books written just about like oaks or, you know, ginkgos, and try to get to know more intimately the different species of trees. so that I can always identify them. Like, so I'll look at them as,
Individuals
individuals. Yeah.
or different communities. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever
No,
have any experiences in childhood with trees that were memorable?
I remember we had a maple tree out in front of our house when I was a little kid, and I loved climbing that tree. But I remember at least once, and probably happened more than once, I fell out of it and landed on my head, which is probably, I developed a pretty hard head. It's either going to be hard or soft after I was done falling out of the tree. So, but that's, trees were for climbing. That's what I remember thinking.
Yeah.
And trees that you can't climb, I just don't understand what they're there for. But now we have, where we live, we have a number of different trees around the house, and we try to nurture them as best we can. We've had some that we've lost. We had some that came down from storms, and we had a beautiful weeping cherry tree that we lost to some kind of an insect infection or something. But it's nice seeing the trees in the springtime as they start to get ready for the summer. And it's always exciting as the season progresses to see them change.
Yeah. That was one benefit of the pandemic, is that like we're all just inside and we got to sort of observe more carefully like the things outside our houses and just watch the season changes in a more relaxed way.
Some people were relaxed, other people were stressed out.
I guess so.
It was like you had to like kind of force yourself to relax because you were stressed out and there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So it was like it made you just slow down and observe. Otherwise, just go out of your mind.
Yeah.
Now, have they made or are they making a movie? Would there be any reason to make a movie of this?
I saw that they were. That's going to be directed by the two that did Game of Thrones, Benioff and I don't remember the other guy's name.
Weiss and Jackman.
Weiss and Benioff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I heard that.
Is it a movie or a TV series?
I don't know if they're associated with it. It seems like it would be a TV series, and I think it would do better to be a TV series.
Yeah, I do too.
Just based on the.
Yeah, in some ways, this reminds me a little bit, not directly, of Pandora. I think it was called Pandora, about the planet. Did you ever see that movie?
No.
No, I feel like I should have though.
Wasn't it called Pandora, Beth? I think it was called Pandora. And they're coming in, the human beings are coming in naturally to mine stuff, and there's a connection between all the living things. It was a pretty well-known movie, so I may be giving it the wrong title. I'll see if I can find the title real quick.
Oh, was it with the blue people?
Yeah. What was that called?
Avatar?
Avatar.
I did see that.
Where did Pandora come from? I don't know what Pandora is. Avatar. My memory is very good, but it's also very short. And then it's gone. Okay, but in Avatar, they're coming in with mining equipment and all this stuff, and there's a beautiful natural world, but they're just looking for what they can make money from. So it's a similar story, which I guess is why they came up with the movie. They based it on our world.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm glad they're making a movie or TV series, because it's just like it'll reach more people. And if it conveys the same message, it's probably all for the good.
I'm
Actually,
sure
go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm sure they'll have some product placement though in the movie. So.
You probably will. You probably will. It's a money-making endeavor, of course.
Yeah. Now, so do you feel at this point? Do you feel optimistic or pessimistic about how things are going?
I'm pretty pessimistic.
Pessimistic.
Yeah.
I'm reading Ministry for the Future right now by Kim Stanley Robinson, and it's very, very pessimistic. It's just like we're almost to the point of no return with respect to climate control, and just comparing the two is, well, trees will be here after we're gone. So it's not their loss.
Yeah, I mean, I can almost feel a little optimistic that way. Like, well, if we're not around, life will go on. Other life forms will appear. Like,
yeah, it's very egocentric.
It's a tragedy, but life will fill every niche, and if we're not here, some other creature will fill our niche. And I don't know. But yeah, we have such a long way to go with climate change, and I just don't really see people willing to make any changes. Like,
yeah.
I don't even see some people even willing to make the slightest change.
Well, a lot of people don't think it's real. I don't know a lot, but there are people who don't think it's real. Or people who don't think it's worth the effort, or people who think that maybe science will come up with a solution.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think, like, people just think that something is going to happen to swoop in and save everything. And it's us. Like, each individual person has to make an effort.
It's pretty daunting, though, to try to figure out how you stem the tide that's going in one direction with internal combustion and, I mean, things that we rely on. It's not like we're pure and innocent. We're part of the society.
Yeah. Even if you're trying to do the right things, we're in a system that we didn't make and that we're participating in. And so, that is what it is.
And even just going to live on the top of a tree doesn't divorce you from the society. They lived on top of a tree, but they ended up coming back into society and trying to make action. So I don't know. Now I'm depressed.
Well, I do say some of the characters in the book did inspire me and feel and give me a little encouragement. Like, there are people out there that care deeply and are, and the author himself, trying to spread the message that, we are part of this complex ecosystem, and we better recognize it soon and act accordingly. Anyway, maybe we could just end with in the novel, a bunch of the characters, or I don't know who states it, but somebody says, the best arguments in the world won't change a person's mind. The only thing that can do that is a good story.
Yeah.
You agree with that? It seems like that's so true. It is the only thing. Facts and data don't seem to do much.
If you're beating someone over the head with trying to persuade them of something, you just meet resistance. But when you tell a story that pulls them in, they kind of want to go along with you. Maybe there was a thing on TV last night on Greta Thunberg that talked about her travels and her journey to where she is today, and trying to figure out how to persuade people. And I think one of the things she talked about was listening to people and trying to be open to what other people are saying beyond just what we're saying, what she was saying. It would be nice to think that we can have a mature, intelligent conversation and come up with some conclusions that will help preserve our place on this planet.
Mhm.
And I hope we do.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the news from the climate summit was pretty good today, I thought, or yesterday's climate summit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they had some technical challenges too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, with some of the technology on the calls. So, but yeah, no, I'm hopeful that people will make decisions that will prolong our stay on this planet.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where else to go if we leave here.
Yeah.
Mars doesn't look all that hospitable.
I guess one last question. What did you think about Patricia's decision at the end? Patricia's decision when she's at the conference and
she was thinking about.
Yeah. I don't know. Answering the question, what's the single best thing a person can do for tomorrow's world?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that wasn't the best way to. But yeah, that was just that was a big blow in the story. Yeah.
I think people face despair.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know, what was it? When did the population bomb come out? 19, is that the 60s or 70s? Was it Ehrlich?
Maybe. Yeah. 70s sounds right to me, but.
And about the population. I mean, we still have a population expansion, and there are a lot of people who are starving, although some, but the catastrophe that they were concerned about has been somewhat mitigated, but not really resolved, just kind of postponed a bit. So hopefully we'll come up with some stopgap measures on climate change and on protecting other species, so that we'll be able to stay here for another millennium or two.
Mm-hmm.
So without any drastic
drastic. Yeah.
things.
Yes.
So okay.
Thanks for joining us, Bill.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having this. I hope that we can get this out to a broad audience. I'm not sure, it's a big book, so I'm not sure how many people are going to just grab that and read it, but pandemic is a good time to do it.
Yes. Yes. Press it on people. You have to read this.
It would make a nice beachside read.
There you go.
So, okay, very good. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer and Emily. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Bill.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.